Today on Notsam Wrestling, both War Games matches have been made. The Cena tournament brackets have finally been posted. New champions crowned at AEW Full Gear, and Becky Lynch goes to war on social media with me. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. I hope a lot of you are doing well. Actually, I'll say this, I hope all of you are doing well, especially here in the States as we approach Thanksgiving. Very exciting time for wrestling fans. You know, Survivor Series was always the Thanksgiving tradition growing up as a WWE fan. You know, growing up when they would run Survivor Series on the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. Historically, Thanksgiving night and the night before Thanksgiving were always very good pro wrestling nights. You know, but that's when they would run on holiday evenings. Even Christmas night would become a good night for live pro wrestling because people would see their families. They'd do everything that they had to do. And then, 6 o'clock rolls around and you've done it all. Family comes over in the morning. By 6 p.m., you've exhausted all options. So what is there to do? Well, the wrestling's in town. Let's go to the wrestling. Then, as technology evolved, let's turn it on. Let's turn the wrestling on. And here we are. Maybe it's not going to be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but it's back to being right around Thanksgiving, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We get our Survivor Series. Although the night after Thanksgiving, we're going to get a big Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination tag on SmackDown. That's going to be Sami Zayn and Rey Fenix and the Motor City Machine Guns and Shinsuke Nakamura versus the entire group of Solo Sikoa's MFTs. And I have not read any spoilers. SmackDown is pre-taped. I don't read the spoilers to find out what's going to happen before I watch. So this podcast will include no spoilers from this coming week's SmackDown because I don't know what the spoilers are because I don't read them. But I will say I'm looking forward to this Survivor Series tag match. I love a Survivor Series tag match. They can go so many different ways. I've heard some people advocating to bring them back to the Survivor Series PLEs. I don't know that I'm in favor of doing War Games and Survivor Series tag matches. And it's interesting because Survivor Series tag matches for a period of time, I think we talked about this either on this show or on the Sirius show or whatever, for a period of time, which was about, the mid to late 80s up until about mid 90s, Survivor Series tag matches were a very, very important part of WWE lore. It started as a pay-per-view that was really just created to compete with Jim Crockett Promotions, and then it became this thing that was an annual tradition and therefore something that WWE fans held dear, and as rough as some of the matches were, where you just get, gloms and gloms of superstars all in the same matches, the graphics were always awesome because you'd see all these superstars. And then when you look back nostalgically and realize that you could see all these superstars in one shot that you haven't thought about since you were a kid, it's amazing. Which is why I thought it was amazing on SmackDown when they showed off the graphic for this year's Survivor Series tag team match of an old school graphic, the old school Survivor Series logo, the old school Survivor Series colors, this sort of very simplified picture graphics. I thought it was awesome. But I don't know if I'm one of these people that would advocate getting rid of War Games to continue on with Survivor Series tag matches at the PLE. I kind of am okay with the idea of doing them on the SmackDown before as a little nod to tradition. But realistically, War Games was always for me, other than ECW doing barbed wire matches, which I know were happening in Japan and were happening in other places. But in terms of in the era in America, ECW had barbed wire matches. I always wanted barbed wire matches in WWE. It was never going to happen. It never will happen. But War Games was the only match that WCW had that I ever thought was a match that I wish WWE had because it was just so cool. It was just such a spectacle. And then when WCW went under and WWE sold it, that was one of the few IPs that I was like, why wouldn't, I care so much more about War Games than I do spin the wheel, make the deal. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Part of Halloween Havoc is like fun and kitschy and nostalgic, but realistically, War Games was the thing that I wish was WWE's. And so when Triple H brought it back as part of NXT, it was amazing. And when they would do the War Games match on the NXT takeovers that were coupled with Survivor Series weekend, you know how much we were all looking forward to those War Games matches. So I loved that part of Triple H taking the reins creatively in WWE has been bringing War Games to Survivor Series. I kind of think it's a best of both worlds scenario. And I'm sure you're going to find years where you don't need War Games as much as you need other years. But that was the case traditionally with War Games as well. It's still such an attraction, the idea of seeing two rings and a big steel cage around it and two giant teams. Like, it's still such an attraction that you're gonna want to see it. You know, and to me, it's not exactly like Hell in a Cell, where Hell in a Cell is more, it's more like a cage match where it means more as a stipulation. Because War Games, like, unless you really have a heel and a babyface large faction, like 5-member faction, going after each other, there's never going to be an organic way to settle a score that you would need War Games. Even when you had the Bloodline, you still had to figure out how to put together a 5-person babyface team. So I don't think it's exactly apples to apples when it comes to the Hell in a Cell thing, which is better as sort of a standalone stipulation as opposed to it being its own annual tradition. You know, a Hell in a Cell match is more like a ladder match, is more like a cage match, is more like a tables match, Extreme Rules match. War Games is an attraction into and of itself. And also, you can just put together a great television show that'll get you to War Games. But before we fully dive into Survivor Series and War Games and Thanksgiving and all of this, I wouldn't want to create an opening segment to this podcast that the former WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion would not approve of. I mean, if you could see my face when I was scrolling through social media this week and Becky Lynch is going after me on Twitter and Instagram, I could not believe it. So, you know, as soon as Monday Night Raw was over, Becky Lynch was an all-star on social media. She was going crazy on Twitter, going full caps, very reminiscent of other classic social media users, but starts to, you know, go after Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce is posting screenshots with voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. She's going after Adam Pearce, you know, writing tweet after tweet after tweet. One of them wrote, Adam Paranoid Pearce, worst GM in the history of the WWE, knows I have a great case against him. Moody Maxine and absolute joke AJ. Instead of taking accountability, he wants to send me a fake number. This was after Becky Lynch insisted on getting Adam Pearce's phone number, and Adam Pearce sent her a phone number that led to a Rickroll, a viral internet prank that I feel like still is very funny. She writes, is this the type of leadership? This is now in all caps. The WWE Universe wants running Monday Night Raw. I insist you return my phone calls immediately or I'll have no choice but to demand your removal as general manager. She said that she was walking around New York City. She was going to every lawyer's office that she could find. They all wanted to take the case. She was wearing a big, fluffy, furry coat, giant shoulders, drinking a matcha, drinking a coffee, going, every lawyer says they want to take this case on because AJ Lee had no legal right to be at ringside as she does not have a managerial license. And the New York State Athletic Commission requires wrestling managers and people around the ring that are there to support to have managerial licenses, which honestly, they probably do. The New York State Athletic Commission, probably knowing how difficult it is, probably does have that somewhere in the fine print somewhere. But Yeah, so she's on this tirade, and then she starts writing to Maxine. Messy Maxine Dupree, all caps, by the way. Messy Maxine Dupree. Remember, when she ran a modeling agency, which was terrible, by the way, no style, no glam, did AJ Loser Lee hire Maxine to help dress her husband total lightweight, terrible shoes in exchange for the interference? Please look into this matter, Adam Pearce. The fans deserve a real champion and not a runway reject. I mean, going all the way back to Max and Maxine Dupree. I mean, nobody. Max Dupree is not around. The male models are not around, but Maxine Dupree is still around, and she's bringing back the past. She's letting the past haunt her. And so, Becky Lynch is going to town, and it was very interesting because I kind of thought that after Monday went down, I mean, look, from a wrestling rules point of view, Becky Lynch does not have a case, AJ Lee never even actually got to the ringside. She just stood in the aisleway. And Becky Lynch was so distracted that Maxine Dupree was able to hit the crossbody and win the match. But I'm being entertained by all this. I love watching people crash out. They talk about social media and the fact that social media ruins kayfabe. Well, I would say that social media can be a wonderful storytelling device. That was until I somehow got dragged into this, and the classic 50 Cent meme, "What you say F me for?" started flashing through my head. Because, over on Notsam Wrestling Live on SiriusXM, we talk about stuff every day. We talked about Maxine walking through the streets of New York with a matcha. We talked about all kinds of stuff all week long. But on Thursday, we opened the show with a conversation about the fact that Triple H had posted graphics for this year's War Games match. And you know that I love when graphics get posted because we hint towards what the matches are going to be. We look at these altercations on television and we go, well, clearly this is the match. Clearly that is the match. I go, has there been a graphic? And I'll scroll through social media accounts. And if no graphic has been posted, I'll say, well, I can't say that match is happening. I can say that match is probably happening. I can say it looks like that match is happening. But until I see a graphic, I don't know that match is happening. And beyond that, and we'll talk about all this in a couple minutes, but beyond that, the graphic and the placement of where the superstars on the men's babyface and the men's heel War Games team were placed was very, very interesting and a cause for conversation. And when there is a cause for conversation in the world of professional wrestling, we'll leave it to a pro wrestling talk show to address that cause for conversation. And that's exactly what I did. I opened Thursday's show talking in depth about the graphic. As a matter of fact, I felt so strongly about the conversation that was had about the graphic that I made that our Not Sam Wrestling update. If you look on Friday morning, I want to say, the podcast that went up, the video that went up, was all about that graphic that was posted. That's how strongly I felt about the conversation surrounding the War Games graphic. But apparently it was not good. Because I'm sitting there, right? And I'm not going to tell you what I was doing when I read Becky Lynch's Instagram. But I will tell you it was something in the privacy of my own home. I will tell you I was in a small room by myself sitting down. And I will tell you it's the one bit of privacy that you have in a house when you're raising 3 children. That's where I was when I read this Instagram that came in from Becky Lynch. And I'm scrolling through Instagram, right? And all of a sudden, I see my face. I see the photo logo for the Not Sam Wrestling Live program, the SiriusXM program, the very logo that would pop up on the SiriusXM app. And I go, what app am I opening here? You know how sometimes when you're flipping and flapping and sliding around your phone, swiping and doing God knows what? You don't know, you open the wrong app, people post the wrong thing, they butt dial, who knows? So I go, is the wrong app open on my phone? I go, no, this is still Instagram. I go, whose account is this? Is this my account? Am I posting the wrong stuff? Did I like have an image open in my photos and then I accidentally posted on Instagram? Do I have to delete something here? I go, no, I didn't do this. And I'm scrolling up and it says Becky Lynch on top. It's Becky Lynch's Twitter name on top. And I'm going like, is like the screen frozen where it's showing like, the top is Becky Lynch, but there's a bug, right? It's buggy. It's Becky Lynch's name, but it's a different thing. It's my podcast app. It's my Sirius app that's open, and both apps are somehow open on the same time. I say, no, because this is scrolling. I go to Becky Lynch, tweet out the graphic of my show, and as it turns out, I had no idea. Becky Lynch, and I'm basing this, I've not had a conversation with Becky, but I am basing this on the information that was presented to me. Becky Lynch is an avid Notsam Wrestling listener. She listens to the podcast. She listens to the Sirius show. I think she might even listen to the morning show as well. When she doesn't want to hear about wrestling, she goes, what's Sam's take on other issues of the day? Oh, Sam and the guys in studio in the morning and Danielle, they're all so great, I think she says. I think. And that's not just me saying it. But I had no idea. Like, I'm a fan of Becky Lynch. I did not know that we were in the Mutual Admiration Society. And I appreciate that. And I started to feel a twinge of guilt because I don't like upsetting my listeners. I like here on this podcast, I like providing my listeners with the type of quality content that they want to hear. But apparently Becky Lynch, avid Notsam Wrestling listener, which you can add that. You can go, Becky Lynch, longest reigning WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion of all time. Becky Lynch, former, Women's World Champion, WWE, like, oh, yeah, the man, WrestleMania main eventer. You go, WrestleMania main eventer, avid Notsam Wrestling listener. Becky Lynch, this is who we're talking about on Twitter and on Instagram, because she did it on both. Tweets out, Instagrams out, hard post, not a story, hard post. Okay, it's on the account. It's a hard post. She writes a graphic. This is all caps. A graphic, a War Games graphic. This is the lead story. Terrible reporting from No Talent Sam. The lead story should be how your favorite wrestler, me, was robbed. Sleazy Sam must not hide the truth from the WWE universe. This is the biggest story in the last 50 years, and this is the type of reporting we get. No wonder his ratings are the worst they've ever been. Sirius, you must fire him immediately. So a couple of things. First of all, not a reporter. Don't claim to be a wrestling reporter. I'm just a guy with an opinion. I like to give my take and hopefully entertain you in the process. Number two, I don't think that that's true about my rating. Sirius doesn't have a public ratings system that gets published in any way, shape, or form. But I've only heard positive feedback about both shows that I'm doing at Sirius, about the morning show and about the wrestling show. I've heard very positive things. In fact, so positive that management doesn't want to talk to me too much because they don't want to give me too much ammunition. You know what I mean? They don't want to tell me exactly how well that I'm doing, but I'm only hearing very good things. And by the way, one person who's listening a lot, they say, is former Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch, listening all the time. And I get text messages from people while they're listening to the show, and I think it's such a great thing. But Becky Lynch is a biggie. I hope that Sirius does not fire me. To wish that somebody loses their job, especially someone with 3 children. I don't think that that's a very nice thing to do at all, especially since I had covered, Becky Lynch's Twitter hijinks earlier in the week. But I was flabbergasted. I started, texting people immediately. I started texting everybody on the Pro Wrestling Nation channel. Everybody, Meg, but I didn't even have to text Megan Morant at Tu Brute. Somebody who I thought was a great friend of mine, Megan Morant, she tweets out Scam Roberts. She wrote Scam Roberts in the Instagram comments. She said, a lot of people call him Scam Roberts, something like that. I said, I can't believe this, Megan. You do a show with me. Why would you say this? Why? She loves Becky Lynch, but come on, Megan. She didn't have my back whatsoever, by the way, Megan Morant, which... we will end up addressing that on the Raw recap, I'm sure. But that has to be spoken about. And so she posts this on Instagram, does Becky Lynch. She tweets it as well. So she tweets an image listening to my great show, She tweets about it as well. I'm sure she's listening to this right now. Maybe she'll send this image out as well. Maybe a clip, something like that. And I mean, is in a rage. I can't believe it. And at first, I'm not replying. But then I get the call, and reporters start hitting me up. They go, we want to hear, your side of the story here, as is good. And the only one that I respond to is Busted Open Radio. Busted Open, they hit me up, and I don't do radio on Fridays. And they go, hey, it's your day off. I know, but will you do the show? I said, of course. Fired up the Notsam studio, jumped on the ISDN line, and talked to Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray about what had happened. And they asked my opinion about it and everything. I gave my opinion about it. And I even made a clip. I made a clip myself. Because, I record on my end too. I made a clip. I posted it out there because I thought Dave and Bully had done a fabulous job, as they always do on the show. I post the clip, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter so that people could see my side of the story. I said, let it be at that. I don't need to get in some kind of flame war. And then Becky Lynch sends another tweet. She sent another tweet, and not only does she send this tweet, but she leaves this as a comment on my Instagram account after I post the clip. And she writes, deranged Dave LaGreca and Scam Roberts. She took Megan's nickname. Megan, who I have not only had such a wonderful time doing the Raw recap with. I hosted episodes of The Bump with her. I hosted episodes of last year when they were still doing, instead of Raw recap, we were doing Raw Talk. I was hosting that with her. Invited her into my home multiple times. I mean, on a weekly basis for months. Invited her into my home. Invite her up to the show at SiriusXM. Invite her into that studio. Invite her into the basement studio. Every studio I've got, I say, let me share it with you, Megan. And what does she do? She gives Becky Lynch ammunition. Can you believe that? That's not great. She used to give kidneys to people, Megan Moran. You know that? Can you believe that? I don't know what happened. Very negative. But Becky writes, deranged Dave LaGreca and Scam Roberts wouldn't know anything about ratings. This was after Dave said maybe Becky Lynch should be worried about her own ratings on Monday Night Raw. They're probably dipping themselves. I said, I don't want to get into that. That's ugly talk. I don't want to get involved in ugliness, begetting ugliness. And I said, for the record, when they go low, we go high is my thing. She says, I have the greatest ratings in the history of ratings. They call me Ratings Rebecca. It's true. I have never heard that nickname for Becky Lynch before. Not once. Not even in a Megan Morant tweet. Never. By the way, you could turn Morant into a very insulting word. All you have to really do is take off the T. And, put another O in there. But I'm not going to do that. Dave, she writes, deranged Dave hasn't been relevant since he wore that pink robe. Terrible look. SiriusXM, please fire these two delusional dummies and hire me if you want a successful show. And oh my God. I mean, I knew that SiriusXM was into stars, like having big stars and stuff. So I'm going like, this is the second time that Becky Lynch has tweeted out about wanting me to be fired. That's absurd. It's insulting. And then the SiriusXM Sports official account goes, come by the studio and go for a trial run. I'm like, I just wrote WTF. What are you doing? Are you so eager to get somebody in studio that you'll throw your host under the bus? I go, why is the SiriusXM Sports? The SiriusXM Sports account should be saying, Becky, now you can't come on Sirius. You can't go with these guys. They go like, oh, instead of going, let's put ourselves on a pedestal, let's put ourselves in this high position. Well, we have a great platform that we will no longer share with you because of what you're saying. No, instead, they go, oh, will you please come do our show? Will you please come in studio? Will you please? Hey, why don't you back up me and Dave LaGreca a little bit? All we're doing is creating the content that allows this thing to keep going. And by the way, created this whole buzz. And you're kissing the Becky Lynch rings. I was very insulted by that. Very insulted by that. Then, wait till you hear this. They put out a War Games graphic for the women's War Games match after it's made on SmackDown. On SmackDown, we found out what the women's War Games match was officially going to be, and a graphic came out. Now, I love when a graphic comes out, and of course, I will be discussing that graphic here today. But then Becky Lynch tweets it and says, now that's a graphic. What a great night for the WWE Universe, but most importantly, me. The greatest of all time, and it's not me saying it. Everybody says it. The boss says it, which I don't even think Sasha Banks has commented on this at all. But I think that all this graphic talk started with yours truly, me. And now she's going the graphic route on this. I mean, like, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I don't know how I get wrapped up in stuff like this. I don't know how it happens. I mean, I try to do the right thing. I try to do a good job. I try to create compelling and entertaining content that is ultimately rooted in the celebration of all things professional wrestling. And still, this is what I got to deal with. So this is what I've been dealing with, and I wanted to get you guys up to speed on everything that I've been dealing with. Hey, give me a second. We'll get right back to it. But by now, I hope you've heard all the good things that people are saying about having a VPN. Whether you want a VPN because it adds security, whether you want a VPN because it actually keeps your internet activity private, whether you want a VPN because it enables you to watch and view content that's geo-blocked for whatever reason, you can do it all with NordVPN. I used NordVPN. I absolutely love it because it is so easy. It works across all my devices, and it just makes it so I can have the entire internet at my fingertips the way it used to be. NordVPN is easy to use. You can connect with one click, or you can even enable auto connect with 0-click protection. There are 8,500 plus servers across 129 different countries, so you can change your virtual location really easily. You just click on another one. Oh, yeah, you know what? Today I'm going to be from this place. Tomorrow I'll be from that place. One NordVPN account can be used across 10 devices. So you don't have to worry if you left one device, signed in. You can't use this one now. Look, I use it. I would recommend it. You can try it risk-free. You can get your exclusive NordVPN deal at nordvpn.com/notsam. I'm talking a 30-day money-back guarantee, risk-free. The link is in the episode description. It's nordvpn.com/notsam. But to get back to those graphics, yes, on Friday night, the women's War Games match was made official. I think we all saw kind of where it was going. We could all read the tea leaves, but the graphic came out. First of all, Charlotte is officially on the babyface team. Charlotte had come out and said that she doesn't want anything to do with that Rhea Bloody Ripley, that she doesn't trust Rhea, that Rhea is a snake. Well, there was a cinematic sit-down on SmackDown, which I love, between Charlotte and Rhea. And Rhea basically was talking about how the bad blood between Rhea and Charlotte Flair was all based in both of them believing that they are the best. But if Charlotte can, Rhea can put that aside for War Games. That War Games is important enough that Rhea can put that aside. And Charlotte says that they can put it aside. And Charlotte says that Rhea can trust her. Can Rhea trust Charlotte? Charlotte just turned babyface. She just finally, it took a lot of work and help from Alexa Bliss, but Charlotte is getting cheered. People have enjoyed the storyline between Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss bringing out the kind of humanity in that character that I think has been lacking, and the humanity that that prior to the tag team run, the audience wasn't connecting with. It's been an interesting year for Charlotte Flair, who comes back for the Rumble, that build to WrestleMania, and very publicly was unclear about why the audience was not on her side, why the audience was booing her. And this tag team forms, this best friend relationship with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte, and by the time you get to the end of it, or at least the end of the tag team championship run, you're cheering for Charlotte Flair again. And we're potentially, well, I'll get into it in a moment, right? So we have 4 now. We have Charlotte Flair. We have Rhea Ripley. We have Alexa Bliss. And we have Io Sky. Main event of SmackDown, main event segment. The 4 women go to the ring, and they announce the 5th member of the team. Light it up! Here comes AJ Lee back on SmackDown for the first time. Yeah, definitely for the first time since she returned for that mixed tag team match with CM Punk. Definitely for the first time since that match. I can't remember if she did 1 or 2 SmackDowns on the way to that match, but then she disappeared after that and is now back, and for the first time on SmackDown, she comes out. Now, when I look at this immediately, I go, okay, I think this has to be the beginning of the AJ Lee run. And I kind of I don't know why there was that period of time where AJ wasn't on television, but I think the reality is that we are now officially where, I was going to say halfway through November, but this is the last week of November. 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. Okay, we are officially in the last week of November. So we have 1 month left in the year. I think what you're going to see in the next 5 weeks is the table being set for what 2026 is going to look like. 2026 is going to be very, very different from 2025. 2025, I think, ultimately, the biggest story of 2025, the biggest story was John Cena's retirement year. I think if you look at the stories of 2025, we'll probably do a podcast that really breaks that down, is the retirement of John Cena and the rise of Jey Uso. And you could see both of those things taking shape at the beginning of the year and the end of 2024. So I think what you're going to start seeing now, and you'll see it at War Games, and you're seeing it with AJ Lee returning for it, what we're seeing now, and I think the context in which we have to view everything, is the seeds being planted for what the major stories, or what the major stories they hope will be for 2026. Because everything changes, and I'm sure there were other stories planned for 2026 that did not go according to plan because of injuries, because stuff didn't get over, because whatever it was, because people change their minds. Or opportunities pop up. Somebody gets a movie, all of a sudden they have to go away for a while. Well, that's going to stop us from doing that. So instead we're going to do this. We pivot. And pivoting will still happen. But I do think that the way WWE is booked now is you can see those stories being built going in to 2026. And I don't know if the reason AJ Lee's been off TV for a little while is since the handicap or since the mixed tag match is because they had to work some things out, or it was intentional, where they want AJ's return to really be a 2026 story. They want it to be like, okay, we'll start at War Games, we'll make Rumble a big deal, and we'll go into WrestleMania with AJ Lee's, like, this is one of the first big matches for AJ Lee. I mean, I'm assuming at some point we'll get that singles match between Becky Lynch and AJ Lee. We're clearly not going to get it at Survivor Series. We're not going to get it at Saturday Night's Main Event, I wouldn't think, because Saturday Night's Main Event is a John Cena show. Is that something that we get on television? Is that something that we get at the Royal Rumble PLE? Or is that something where Becky and AJ Lee are both in the Royal Rumble? Now we're all the way to Elimination Chamber. It starts to get complicated now when you try to figure out when these stories are going to have their climaxes. Before, you go like, okay, there's another PLE in 3 weeks, and another PLE in 3 weeks, and another PLE in 3 weeks. Now we're getting to a period of time where the PLEs are spaced out further apart, and the headline matches are already kind of written in stone. Whether it's War Games, Cena retirement, Royal Rumble match, Elimination Chamber match, and then you're at WrestleMania. So it gets very, very interesting in the way these stories are going to be told. So AJ Lee comes out, and just as we're ready to have it sink in that AJ Lee is back, boom, here comes Nia, here comes Lash, here comes Asuka, here comes Kyrie, and they beat up the women in the ring. AJ Lee is walking to the ring, not exactly rushing. She might be a member of the Get Your Stuff In Hall of Fame. I would have to watch that clip back, but not exactly running to the ring. But as she's walking to the ring, boom, here comes Becky Lynch, who takes out AJ Lee. Becky Lynch, after taking out AJ Lee and the other women taking out the other members of that team all in the ring, Becky shakes hands. The match is set. The graphic comes out. Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, AJ Lee, Io Sky, and Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend. Lash Legend with the spotlight of a lifetime, an absolutely insanely loaded War Games match here with giant stars from every era of the sort of modern era of WWE women's wrestling. Meaning if you look and the modern era is the kind of post Divas era, which really is, it starts right around WrestleMania 32, you know. And I say that because that's WrestleMania 32 is the match where the Divas Championship became the WWE Women's Championship. So it really starts with Charlotte Flair and that first crop of women that came from NXT. But you have, you know, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch as that first crop of women coming over. You have AJ Lee, who was there as the sort of, you know, I was there, the wrestler that was in the Divas era, but also helped transition the Divas out of that and into this more modern era. You have Nia Jax and Asuka and well, you have Alexa Bliss that came in right after Charlotte Flair. You have Nia Jax and Asuka that were kind of that next generation of women in NXT. You have Kairi Sane, who came in through NXT, and Io Sky, who came in through NXT after that, and Lash Legend, who is from that new crop of NXT women. It's just, it's a really remarkable lineup when you look at it. You've got AJ Lee, who's in this match after having only wrestled one match in the last 10 years, and it was a mixed tag. So it'll be really interesting to see AJ Lee in this match and the stories that are told there. What is the story between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley? And clearly we're going to get back to that. When are we going to get to it? Or what about Io Sky and Rhea Ripley? Do we see anything bubble up with that rivalry? Or I don't think so personally. But is there even a hint of it? What about the fact that, like, when you put these matches together, you know, the reason that Asuka and Kairi are in it is because of their friction with Rhea and Io, but also their friction with Alexa and Charlotte. AJ Lee is in it because of the friction with Becky Lynch. Like, there are these stories that go across, but do we see that confrontation between Charlotte and Becky Lynch? I think there's got to be a moment where they put hands on each other and everybody remembers. Everybody remembers this sort of foundational women's rivalry that nobody, I mean, I would say Charlotte and Becky is probably as close to a Shawn Brett rivalry as exists in the modern women's division of the WWE. I mean, maybe I'm not thinking of something. Maybe you could correct me, leave it in the comments, send an email, something like that. But, you know, I think that would be the best comparison I could make. What is all of it going to look like, you know? And what's coming out of it? I thought that really the reason that AJ Lee was interfering in that Raw match, the Intercontinental Championship match, was that Becky Lynch was going to get away from the Intercontinental title and go right for AJ Lee. But she's been tweeting about Maxine Dupree this entire time. So, like, what does that say for where Becky stands in this thing? Coming out of this, do we go to an AJ Lee match? Or coming out of this, does Becky chase the Intercontinental title for a while, and maybe that's how you stop from having the AJ Lee match? Because to me, it's like, okay, all roads lead to WrestleMania. In my mind, I want to get back to Rhea and Io as the WrestleMania match. I want Jade and Bianca, if Bianca's going to be back for WrestleMania, as the WrestleMania match. And then you could do Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee as a WrestleMania match if you can hold off on that match for 5 months, which is a tall order. But I guess we'll see. At the same time, like I said, the men's War Games graphic came out this week, or last week, I guess it was. And we have, I mean, Talk about the women's match being loaded. The men's match is insanely loaded. You have Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso versus Brock Lesnar, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. Again, two teams with full of main eventers and main eventers that span generations. Whether you're talking about Roman Reigns and the 4 years that he spent as champion, whether you're talking about CM Punk and the generations that he has as a main event guy, whether you're talking about Cody Rhodes and the fact that he is today's top guy, whether you're talking about Jey Uso, and like I said, 2025, he's one of the top stories of the year. You're talking about Brock Lesnar that goes all the way back to '02. You're talking about the future and Braun and Braun. You're talking about Logan Paul, a current top guy. You're talking about Drew McIntyre. Come on. Take it back to 2020. You know, it's amazing when you look at this. I love the building that happened towards this on SmackDown. I thought Cody Rhodes' promo on SmackDown was one of my favorite parts on SmackDown. I love when Cody nails it. When Cody nails it, God, does he nail it. Cody getting up there and cutting down the entire Heyman team, person by person, talking about Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker and how they won't realize their talent until they're looking at the lights, talking about, you know, Logan Paul and how nobody cares about Logan Paul, or talking about his drone and his flips. I love Cody Rhodes talking about Logan Paul's flips and his drone. Good, you have all the tricks and you have all the stunts, but that's not what War Games is about. And Brock Lesnar finally acknowledging what happened before you left, Brock. Who was the last guy that beat you? Me, and I did it twice. And looking right at Paul Heyman and bringing up that WrestleMania again. Talking about the picture for WrestleMania. What was Cody Rhodes talking about? The WrestleMania graphic. People make fun of me for doing full segments on graphics. But then why does it come up? Why do both Becky Lynch and Cody Rhodes make the world out of a graphic? Because I'm right again. Cody Rhodes talks about that WrestleMania picture and all the people on that picture being represented at one point or another by Paul Heyman. But Cody Rhodes realizes what his relationship with Mr. Heyman is. And that's that every time Paul Heyman builds somebody up, Cody Rhodes is there to beat them. And it really is a very Hogan-Heenan dynamic. That Hulk Hogan's arguable peak as a babyface in the Hulkamania phase, that's very arguable. But when you talk about WrestleMania 2, when you talk about WrestleMania 3, that's a period of time when all, and really even coming off of WrestleMania 1. So you're talking about really like 86, 87, 88, like all of these years are years where Bobby Heenan is creating stars for Hulk Hogan to beat, whether it's King Kong Bundy, whether it's Andre the Giant, whether it's, you know, everybody in between. It was a very Hogan-Heenan dynamic, the way Cody Rhodes described his relationship with Paul Heyman. Cody Rhodes talks about War Games as the match beyond, which I love it because that is the original verbiage for War Games, right? It would be War Games was what happened. Technically, War Games traditionally is what happens as each wrestler is entering the ring, right? We have a War Games advantage match on Monday to find out who gets the advantage, which I think in this case, the babyfaces will get the advantage, even though it's very atypical and kind of makes no sense based on the dynamics of how the match should work. I think that way you get Brock Lesnar going in last, and I think that's what you're going to get. But the match doesn't officially begin until all 10 men are in the ring. So it's a long time, 25 minutes or whatever it is. You do the math of time before the match even officially begins. The time before the match, I always understood to be War Games. And once all 10 men are in the ring, that's when the match beyond begins. So it's War Games, the match beyond. Once all 10 men are in the ring, War Games has evolved into the match beyond, and when the bell rings, that's what's beginning. And Cody Rhodes talks about it as the match beyond and talks about it not just as something he should win, but as his birthright. He's not just the man in this match because he's the top guy. It's because it's his birthright. And why is it his birthright? It's because when we look at this structure, when we look at this match, when we look at the dynamics in this match and the storytelling that happens throughout, it was all concocted in the brain of the man whom is responsible for the creation in a very literal sense of Cody Rhodes, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes thought of this match, and here we are. I mean, all these years later. 40, who knows? I mean, I could just look it up, but I'm not going to right now. 30 plus years later. Talking about War Games and still telling stories based on the idea that the American Dream had. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso versus Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre. And Cody has asserted himself as the team captain of the babyfaces, which I think is the right move. Because you want Cody to be that top guy. I think it's the right move. But ultimately, I think that it is one that is going to be debated. You know, a lot of people, first of all, CM Punk is the one that first put this team together on Monday Night Raw. Second of all, I think there were people that were surprised when that War Games graphic came out and it was Cody Rhodes that was front and center of the baby faces and Brock Lesnar front and center of the heels. That Roman Reigns didn't get to be front and center. But honestly, I think that that's part of the storytelling. I think Roman Reigns needs to tell that story where he is on a journey to get back to front and center. He has not been front and center. What has he done? He lost the Royal Rumble. He lost at WrestleMania. He lost to Bronson Reed. He didn't get the pin at SummerSlam. Jey Uso did. Why should he be front and center? And that should bother Roman Reigns. Because Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has achieved that aura, that mystique that nobody gets. I mean, Brock's got it. Roman has it. That's it. And I think that 2026, Roman's story should be the story of getting back on top for real. And part of that story begins with the fact that he wasn't the team captain on a War Games team that he was on for the first time ever. He was the team captain of the Bloodline team. He was the team captain of last year's team. Roman is the team captain if he's on any team. And for the first time, he's on a team that he's not the captain of. Cody is. And so what does that do for Roman Reigns? I think it motivates him to have the year that he should have in 2026. And I think this is a fascinating one because I think as you talk about those stories that are going to bounce off of War Games, I think that you've got to talk about the story of Roman Reigns. And you talk about the story of CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. You talk about the story of the Usos. And there's, I think, more tension within the babyface team than there is between the baby faces and the heels, between the heels and the baby faces, or within the heels. I think the most tension in that match right now exists within the babyface team. So I'm very excited to see how all of it pans out at War Games. We had a great pay-per-view over just a couple days ago, Full Gear, AEW Full Gear. AEW really doesn't miss with pay-per-views. And we have, definitely some noteworthy stuff. Mercedes Moné not able to win the AEW Women's Championship. However, her belt boys were in effect. And one of those belt boys was the one and only Tommy Invincible. Tommy Invincible. Maybe he didn't get a chance to be one of Cena's final matches. Maybe he didn't get a chance to win the Intercontinental Championship at Madison Square Garden like he tried to put out into the universe on Instagram. He was not able to will that into being. But Tommy Invincible was a Mercedes Moné belt boy. And how many of us can say that we were belt boys? Not that many. Tommy Invincible can. So shout out to you, Tommy Invincible. You did that thing. Ricochet won the AEW National Championship, a new AEW championship, which got some heat from some of the wrestlers in NWA saying we already have a national champion. The NWA already exists. Tony Khan saying that, we're two separate promotions. It's fine, whatever. However, the AEW National Championship is clearly kind of a combination of the old NWA National and NWA Television Championship. Like the design of the belt is clearly designed after the NWA National Championship in the colors of the NWA Television Championship. But the design, like, you could not miss that design. I think Ricochet is going to be a very good champion. I was surprised that there weren't any, out of nowhere or surprise entrants in the Casino Gauntlet match that decided who would win this championship. I love that they started with Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. But I think I love Ricochet as a heel. I love Ricochet as a heel holding this title. I think that Ricochet will be able to create an identity for this title. I think that this title will also help evolve the Ricochet character even further, which is really good as a heel. Just the idea that Ricochet got forward in that press conference and goes, I'm going to not defend this against just anybody. People are really going to have to qualify for this. I'm really going to be looking at the resumes of who I'm going to be defending against, and I'm definitely going to be defending against AEW people before I even think about going to other promotions with it. All the stuff that fans want. He's like, I'm really not going to do that. I'm going to do stuff that makes sense as a champion. I'm not going to, it's like the opposite of the United States Championship, which is perfect for a villain, for a bad guy. So I love the decision. I love the way that Ricochet is handling it. But what I really liked about the show was the end of the show. I thought the end of the show was fabulous. I thought, I was somewhat surprised that Hangman lost the AEW championship already, but I like title changes, man. I don't like constant title changes, but I think sometimes you got to switch that title earlier than people would have thought. You got to switch that title in matches that people wouldn't have thought. It just keeps things alive. And so I like that they did that. I like that they switched the title. They switched the title, of course, with a turn, people trying to get involved in the match, whether it was the Ops, whether it was Eddie Kingston, who has been an ally to Hangman Adam Page, and then boom, here comes Hook, who had left the Ops previously, had become an ally to Hangman Page, rejoins the Ops, turns on Hangman Page, allows Samoa Joe to win the AEW World Championship once again. Samoa Joe, now a two-time AEW World Champion, both times as a villain. And then we get the lights going out, and who arrives but Swerve? Swerve comes out, and I swear, man, he has that aura. You want to talk about somebody that has made themselves into a star in AEW world? Swerve comes out, and you are looking at a big star. You are looking at a main event guy. You are looking at a guy that you're going to buy a ticket to go see. And Swerve comes out, and he walks through the Ops. And, of course, on the Videotron, you see video of Adam Page and the house that he burned down. Swerve, of course, bought his childhood home, and Adam Page burned it down the same day as part of their rivalry. But Swerve beats up the Ops. And there were many Ops in the ring, and Swerve beat them all down. And at the end of the night, just the image of Swerve and Hangman Page standing side by side, it was a very strong image. You don't have to know every ounce of everything that's happened between the two of them. It helps if you do, but you don't have to know everything to see. It was a very strong babyface image. It was an exciting image. It was an image that makes you want to see what's going to happen next. You had a Young Bucks babyface turn as well. They won the $1 million match. They've been broke for a while, but they put down the money to stop the Don Callis family from beating up Kenny Omega, which, people have been waiting for a while. The Young Bucks and the Lucha Express, Jurassic Express. The Young Bucks and the Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega all together again. Beautiful feel-good moment. But the ending of that show, go look at the ending of that show if you get a chance. And it's just a great visual of two strong AEW-built baby faces looking on at these monster heels. It was very cool. Very, very cool. Now, I was very, very excited. Before we get into emails, I was very, very excited. I was very excited this week that we got brackets. As much as I love graphics, I just as much love brackets. We got the brackets in the John Cena tournament. Now, there's a lot going on with John Cena. First of all, We know that John Cena is going to choose the Iron Survivor Challenge participants, which is great. We also know that John Cena has 2 matches left. Survivor Series with Dominic Mysterio, which we'll probably do a Survivor Series podcast preview later this week. And then the winner of the tournament, and that's it. But when I look at it, right, I go, I think Dominic Mysterio is going to beat John Cena. That's a spoiler for, the preview show coming up later, but I think Dominic Mysterio is going to beat John Cena. And based on where I see this tournament going, I think John Cena is not going to beat the winner of this tournament. I think we've got 2 John Cena matches left, and I think he is going to lose both of them. Based on that, it's a hard pill to swallow. But I think, believe it or not, we have seen John Cena's final victory in the WWE. I don't know if anybody has won more of these matches than John Cena. I mean, John Cena would just win, to the point that there were some that would get exhausted by it. Probably members of the Nexus. But he would win all the time. Now, he would lost more than I think he gets credit for, for lack of a better term. He lost more matches than I think people realize. I mean, imagine building up to WrestleMania. First of all, he lost at WrestleMania 27 to The Miz. And The Rock stands tall at the end of that WrestleMania. That's why I don't like that WrestleMania. I love The Rock, but he wasn't an active wrestler. He's the one who stood tall at the end of that WrestleMania. I didn't like that. Then The Rock spends a year bullying John Cena. Like making him look like a chump. Like a chump. And then he beats him at WrestleMania. He lost again at WrestleMania 28, John Cena. He lost to The Rock. He lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 34. He lost to Brock Lesnar right after WrestleMania 30. He's lost a lot of matches. John Cena, a lot of big matches, but he lost to CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011. A lot of these famous John Cena matches, John didn't win. He lost to Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 36 in the Firefly Funhouse. He beat him at WrestleMania 30. That wasn't that cool. But he lost to Bray Wyatt. And this is, at one point, I'm going to interview John Cena again. We did an interview with him for the Raw Recap, which is on WWE's YouTube channel, which is unbelievable. It wasn't the appropriate time to go through his entire career, but at some point, I'm going to get real time with John Cena. And at that point, I'm going to ask him if he ever thought that the Bray Wyatt match might be his last match. Because at the end of the match, there's voiceover of John Cena, which he said in a promo, I'm going to take out the most overrated, overprivileged, whatever. I don't have it word for word in front of me, WWE superstar of all time. And John Cena is the one that loses that match as that audio is playing. So I kind of wonder if there was any point where he thought that would be it for him. But the idea that we have maybe seen John Cena's last match in WWE, it's a lot. And it's almost too much for me to take in this moment. I mean, it's an emotional thing, but I think it's true. I think we may have seen John Cena's last victory already. So in the Cena tournament, Cody actually helped, which we haven't seen any interference, but Carmelo was able to beat Bronson Reed. Carmelo Hayes beat Bronson Reed, which was a shocker. And then Penta beat Finn Balor. So we got the brackets, and we know that we're going to get Jey Uso versus Rusev. We're going to get LA Knight versus a mystery opponent, which no spoilers on that. I don't know the spoilers yet. Pentagon versus Solo Sikoa, or Penta versus Solo Sikoa, and Gunther versus Carmelo Hayes. Now, the way I see it, by the time you listen to this, maybe you already know, I don't. I've got Gunther beating Carmelo Hayes. I've got Penta beating Solo. I've got LA Knight beating a mystery opponent. And I've got Jay losing to Rusev because I have the heel team getting their revenge. The babyface team helped Carmelo beat Bronson Reed. So I think the babyface team is going to help Rusev beat Jey Uso. So my final four now, and it still winds up being the same. My final four are Rusev, LA Knight, Penta, and Gunther. I have Gunther beating Penta. I have LA Knight beating Rusev. It's exactly the same as I said it last week. My final in this tournament is LA Knight versus Gunther. And I have Gunther beating LA Knight, and then I have Gunther beating John Cena. Now that I have the brackets, the final stays the same, and the result stays the same. And that's, based on that, that's why I think we've seen John Cena's final victory in the WWE. But I'd love to know what you think. You can leave it in the comments if you want. You can also leave it in a podcast review. You can send us an email. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com is the email address. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com is our email address that you can send email to. We read it every single week, and I love hearing from you guys, as a matter of fact. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com. Let's go to Camden, who writes in, Sam, I agree with you that I think the heel men's team will win at War Games, and also agree that Lesnar getting the win is the move to continue the myth of Lesnar that you mentioned. Walk with me. Walk with Camden. I think Lesnar should pin Rhodes because I think it would mean the most, even if it didn't lead to a match or a feud. Well, I think that it has to. If you have Lesnar pinning Cody, then Cody has to get his pin back. Even though you could say, well, he's already got two, and Cody has to get that victory back. Even if it didn't lead to... Cody was the last to beat Cena before Lesnar squashed him. So we're building to when Breaker conquers the mythic Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I also think it wouldn't be clean. I think something has to happen in the dynamic of Roman Punk Cody that leads to that finish. I would agree. But then, if you're going to have somebody fully turn on Cody, I don't know. I think that can get messy. If you're going to pin your champ, you got to get whoever pinned the champ to have the champ pin him eventually. You know, I don't see how Brock Lesnar pins Cody if Cody doesn't get that back. Luke writes in, Luke from Perth. Hello to the OPTC QB1. Appreciate that. That's correct. Luke from Perth. I'm flying to my first WrestleMania in April. Ooh, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. First, will you do a live podcast in Vegas? That would be awesome. Yeah, I got to put that together. I haven't done a live show in a while. Let me know, Chicago. Do you want me to go to Chicago for Elimination Chamber? Do you want me to go to back to Vegas for April? Vegas one was a really fun one. 2, if Crown Jewel and Elimination Chamber were the two funnest weekends I have ever had, can I expect this to be the best weekend of my life? That's enough questions from me. Enough! Yeah, dude, yes. If right now, Crown Jewel and Elimination Chamber were the two funnest weekends of your life, yes, WrestleMania is going to be the best weekend of your life. WrestleMania is the funnest wrestling. I mean, you call it a weekend, but it's the best, dude. I mean, I can't tell you enough. And it's not just because, look, WrestleMania 39, if I'm being 100% honest with you, the LA WrestleMania, I did not go as WWE staff. I had no duties that weekend. But I got myself some tickets to WrestleMania and went. And I was there. I had to do some stuff with Mattel, if I'm being honest. But I was doing I was doing stuff for Not Sam. I was doing stuff with Mattel. It was so fun. And I was there for 8 days almost. I mean, it was a lot. But I mean, yeah, get there, do 5 days. I would say if you're going to WrestleMania, especially from Perth, if you can do it, getting there on Wednesday, I think, at least, if you're getting there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, maybe fly back on Tuesday. If you can stay for Raw, it's great. If you can't, that's okay. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are essential days to be there for the full days. Full day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And work your travel around it. Raw after WrestleMania is fun, but it's also you are exhausted at Raw after WrestleMania. I think that's one of the reasons why the crowds are always so crazy, because the wrestlers are exhausted, the audience is exhausted, everybody is nuts tired because of how hard we've all gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So get there. I mean, WWE World is always amazing. Yeah, it's the best, dude. And yeah, I'll try to get a live show going. Martin writes in, "Hi, Sam. Hope you're doing well." I'm doing astronomically well. I was watching an old episode of Notsam Wrestling where you were vouching for Bastion Booger to be in the Hall of Fame. Are you still of that mindset? I am. I am of that mindset. I remember Bastion Booger. Should he headline a class? No, he shouldn't headline a class, but I think he should be in. There's no reason why you wouldn't put Bastion Booger in the Hall of Fame. I think he's great. I personally would love to see Matt Bourne's heel Doink in the Hall of Fame. As you, I, and many others believe it was Doink's best iteration. Doink should be in the Hall of Fame. Doink should, I mean, without irony or funny. Doink should be in the Hall of Fame, and it should be kind of acknowledged that it is the Matt Bourne portrayal. And a relative of Matt Bourne should accept the Hall of Fame nomination. Nobody else who portrayed Doink should get the Hall of Fame nomination. Avik writes in, "What's the haps from London? Early prediction for the headliner for the Hall of Fame and tag team." I'm not doing that. I think Cena and the Hardys, maybe, but I'm not getting into like 6 months down the road stuff. Let's see. Mark from Tarzana writes in. He hits me with a Fatu. Fatu! "How goes the battle, my PTC? I mean, it's great. I'm winning. A while ago, I heard something on another show, which I watched to appreciate your excellence." Oh, good, because I was wondering why. I put out enough content that you don't need other programming. And I heard something that got me thinking. There are good guys, there are bad guys, and the OTC. You talk about good guys and bad guys. Is there, in your opinion, a third type of character who is perceived as more of a tough badass than a good guy or a bad guy? Some wrestlers came to mind. Roman, Jacob. Oh, no. I mean, I'll tell you right now. Here's why no. I mean, look, there are different types of good guys and different types of bad guys. And there are, I guess, tweeners, you could argue. But I'll go through your list right now. Came to mind. Roman, of course. Roman is a good guy. Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is a good guy. Obafemi. It remains to be seen where his character is right now because he just came back. Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is a good guy. I mean, these are like Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu, and Rhea Ripley are clearly baby faces. I don't know what you're watching or get rid of all these other shows. Obafemi, it's tough to tell, but he was definitely, I mean, he's probably a baby face. If he hasn't changed too much. I mean, but Jacob Fatu, Roman Reigns, and Rhea Ripley are baby faces. I don't know. What could possibly be the debate that they aren't? They're definitely baby faces. I guess what I mean are guys like Road Warriors who could fight the Russians on Monday and the Rock and Roll Express on Saturday, and the promos didn't really change, just the audience's perception of them. No, I mean, it depends. The Road Warriors turned babyface. I mean, the Road Warriors, you could tell when they're baby. The Road Warriors in some of their most famous stuff are clearly baby faces. You know, you don't have to, there's not one set of rules that you have to follow to be a baby face or a heel. There are some baby faces that can get away with stuff that other baby faces can't get away with, but they're still baby faces. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this and who some of the others who fit into this mode. No, because I don't believe in this mode. As always, I acknowledge you, my PTC. I appreciate you, Mark, by the way. Don't take my tone to think that you're in the, like, I'm yelling at you. That's just my tone. But, no. There's heels and baby faces, dude. Especially in WWE more than any place else. But generally speaking, yeah, there might be a few outliers and there might be a few tweeners, but especially once you get into, like, very specific, I mean, I could go through the whole roster and tell you who's a babyface, who's a heel, who's a babyface, who's a heel. You know, Dominic Mysterio will probably do a lot of the stuff as a babyface that he's doing now as a heel. That's not going to make, well, he's not really a babyface because he doesn't do, no, he's a babyface because people are buying tickets to cheer him. That's what makes him a babyface. That's it. Because the audience wants him to win. That's what makes him a babyface. Ryan writes in, "I acknowledge you, my podcast tribal chief. I appreciate that. When are you going to have a show dedicated to unpacking the Cena heel run / retirement tour? I, for one, loved the Cena heel run, and I am ready to make my email case when you give us all the green light. Thanks." Ryan, I am planning something very epic. If you like my breakdown shows, if you like my storytelling, going over a full career shows, Christmas week is going to be one for you. I have an idea, and it's going to take a lot of work, and I still have a lot of work to do on it, more work to do on it than I feel comfortable with, but I've got some time in front of me that I'm going to spend on this. I have a truly epic idea for John Cena, and hopefully I will get it done. My plan is that we will have something to that effect the week of December the 22nd. The week of December the 22nd, I'm planning something like that, where that would be a part of what I do. Okay, let's go to, this is a big one. I'm going to skip it. Let's go to Justin. Justin here from Birmingham. Just want to say I absolutely love your show. I appreciate that. I enjoy your style of commentary. I appreciate that. It comes from more of an everyman's perspective. Add that to your knowledge of pro wrestling history, and it just shows how much you love pro wrestling. I mean, people want to make all kinds of crazy, like, anybody, they want, oh, Sam's a shill, Sam's this, Sam's that. You know why I do the show? Because I love wrestling. I watch things because I love them. And I don't do backflips and turn myself into pretzels to try to figure out reasons to criticize the product because I want clicks. To me, and it's crazy because there will be people that try to make it seem like because I come from a positive place, I'm in some way inauthentic. But it's just not true. I'm as authentic as anyone you could possibly see creating content. And I'll stand by that. However, the people who are very critical, you can see right through them. They're the least authentic people possible. They're like trying to find reasons to say that they're unhappy with this or that they don't like that or this person should be doing that wrong. It's crazy. I can honestly say that pro wrestling is my favorite art form. Just say it's your favorite thing. It's my favorite thing too. I want your opinion on something. You were discussing Brock Lesnar being in War Games. You brought up the fact that he's now regained the status of Goliath that should eventually be slayed by someone to get a major rub. Lots to talk about Braun Breaker. But I would think it would be better if it was Jacob Fatu would be the one to slay Brock. Can you give me your thoughts on this? Well, I would say this. Fatu! I think Brock's big enough that both could do it, honestly. Like, if I were going to give one guy the big rub, it would be Braun Breaker. But that's just because he's younger. You know what I mean? He's got more years in front of him. Jacob Fatu, however, I would love a situation where it's like, there's no reason why Brock Lesnar can't use this to be beaten by a couple people. I would love a Jacob Fatu versus Brock Lesnar story. I would love a story where Jacob Fatu starts conquering people. And also Braun Breaker is more there. Right? Jacob Fatu hasn't done the amount of conquering that it would require to conquer Brock Lesnar. And I think he will. But I would love the idea of like Braun Breaker versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and Jacob Fatu versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, which could lead then to Braun Breaker versus Jacob Fatu later in the year or even next year at WrestleMania or 2027. Like, now we're talking. You know what I mean? I think there's room for all of it. Let's see. Darius writes in, it's hard for me to believe that anyone is a true Grand Slam champion if they never won the 24/7 championship. I know, I'm just being petty. That's right. And where's John Cena's Speed Championship, by the way? Let's go to one more. Last email. Sam. Good day from Melbourne, Australia. Wow, Melbourne. I love the they call it the globality. I love the globality of this podcast. Speculating wildly, no one has touched on Drew's relationship with Brock Lesnar. COVID period had Drew dominate Brock. Could you see Drew hitting Brock with a Claymore and potentially begin to turn babyface, or potentially Brock hasn't forgotten? Excuse me. And F5's Drew. Got a frog in my throat there for a second. Or literally everyone in the match on both sides. I mean, I think that it should be touched upon. I think that it's a legitimate thing to bring up, but I really, like, you can't turn Drew babyface. Drew's not going to beat Brock Lesnar right now. He doesn't have enough wins under his belt. It's the same thing I just said about Jacob Fatu. You can't have Drew lose a ton of title matches and then turn babyface and start a rivalry with Brock Lesnar. Brock's going to beat him. It only makes sense. So, no, I don't think that either of those two things would happen. I don't think Brock is going to F5 Drew. I don't think Drew is going to Claymore Brock. I think that you could have a little bit of tension between the two of them. I think there could be a minute where feathers get ruffled. But I think for now, that's probably as far as it's going to go. Don't forget to email in, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/notsamwrestling. Subscribe across all audio platforms to Not Sam Wrestling, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. And listen to the show on SiriusXM. Hope everybody who celebrates has a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And, we're going to have content going up all week long. Nothing changes. And Survivor Series coming up. I think that siren's going to blare. I think it's possible. We'll talk soon. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.